Texas completely dominates Oklahoma. Felt very similar to the Michigan game, the way that they won this, where there was a clear separation. There was a clear difference in the quality of these two teams in their 34-3 win. And they just started to snowball. And then eventually it was chunk play after chunk play. And then boom, the game was over. Probably the most boring game of the day, which
I was a snoozer.
It was a complete snoozer. I think, though, that it is worth noting that Quinn Ewers did look a hair rusty for the beginning portion of this game. And I think throughout most of it, he was a bit rusty. He was not on point, which is fine. There's no overreaction to that. It was fine because he's coming off of an ab strain. He didn't play for multiple weeks. Oklahoma's defense, it's physical, it's swarming. They were getting in his face. They were getting some good early pressures. The interception that he threw was bad. Again, clearly looks out of rhythm. He will have time to string together enough performances to hit that real rhythm when the playoff time comes around. But the Georgia game is right around the corner, and he has to be firing on all cylinders. He can't play the way that he did today against Oklahoma, against Georgia, against the defense that's going to play a lot better than what they did against Mississippi State. Don't want to hear anyone jumping and saying that, oh, look at how they did against Mississippi State. That's not the version of Georgia that we all know will show up when they play against Texas. Outside of that, I was really impressed by their run game because of the issues and the lack of depth that we know that they currently have, because of the injuries that they suffered at the beginning of the year. It didn't really show up against Michigan, but there were a ton of huge plays in the run game for Texas. That's going to pay dividends later on if they can stay as impactful.
I think your Ewers take is fair. I wouldn't disagree that he was rusty. And I know when we've seen Ewers come back from injury prior, it does take a game for him. Last time he came off of injury, I think he had 2 picks and they still won. So it's how he gets back into the rhythm, make a couple bad decisions, learn from them, and get ready for a next big game. And I love my ideal for keeping Texas as my number one is because I can't wait to see how Texas performs as number one versus Georgia, coming off of a scalding win, putting up 41 points, almost unheard of for this snooze fest of an offense. But that's going to be a massive game for them. And I think this Texas defense is pretty underrated. They give up 237 yards today. And I will contribute that a lot of that is Oklahoma's quarterback issues so far. Week 7 is the opposite of where you want to be deciding what quarterback should be starting for you if you are a team that is currently ranked. It's not a good look. It's not what you want to be dealing with in week 7. Week 7, hey, we got our guy and we're going to start rolling. We're going to start stringing wins together and try to get back in the conversation. Oklahoma, cooked like that goose. And I'm also big on this win, Joe, because these bitter, hateful rivalries, we know crazy stuff happens. We just know it does. Like today, Florida, Tennessee was off the rails. It shouldn't have been off the rails. Tennessee's a better team. Tennessee has a better quarterback, coach, running game, defense, but it was close because crazy stuff happens in these games. Texas, Oklahoma, crazy stuff's supposed to happen, and they go beat them by 31 points. That tells me a lot of what I need to know about Texas being a team that has depth and takes themselves seriously, and Oklahoma, who has identity issues and does not have the proper depth.
That's fair credit to give because of that game and how consistently close it is, even when one team on one side's bad and the other one's really good. It's always typically a one-score game. Like the stat that I kept referencing was that 9 of the last 10 matchups that they have, it was a one-score game. So for them to win and separate that much when Oklahoma might have had a lot of offensive issues and injuries, their defense is still really talented. To drop 34 on them, it is a very impressive day. I just need to know, okay, here's my issue with Texas, and this is going to get a pissy response. I just don't know if beating Michigan and Oklahoma when they're down as bad as they are and with the issues that they have at quarterback is as impressive as a lot of people are going to make it out to be.
I don't think it's unfair for you to point out. You won't be the only one pointing out.
Like they look
that
nice.
Michigan
they
has
look
been
nice. They're ranked wins, but
yeah,
are they real ranked wins?
They are real ranked wins. Michigan's quarterback situation has been an albatross, similarly to Oklahoma's. But they still have won games or had credibility at that point to be ranked, and it's still football at the end of the day. Hacky coach speak answer, but I'll take a ranked win because we're going to see these teams at the end of the year start fleshing through their ranked wins, and some are going to get glossed over. Some of these games from today that were way closer than they needed to be will just be glossed over because of the pedigree of the program. So I am going with the default Texas big win still with the situation. Obviously, though, next week is the big kicker for them. That's when the cream rises. That's when the rubber meets the road. All of the analogies that you could make. It's Texas, Georgia. That's when it gets decided.